Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepless Scientist, a quiet place in the cosmos where your thoughts can unwind and knowledge becomes a soft lullaby for the night. Tonight's journey will take us into the remarkable, often overlooked concert happening inside you right now, the symphony of your senses. But not just the 5 you were told about in school. Tonight we'll wander gently through a larger, quieter orchestra of balance and motion, of temperature and hunger, of the subtle ways your body knows itself. We'll meet the musicians, your eyes, ears, skin, tongue, nose, but also the hidden players, like your inner compass and your sense of time, always ticking quietly behind the curtains of your awareness. And through it all, we'll follow the conductor, your brain, that soft, electric maestro who doesn't just record reality, but composes it moment by moment into the story of being you. But before you settle in and get cozy, I'd love if you could take a moment to like this video and subscribe, only if you truly find these quiet explorations enjoyable. And when you're ready, leave a comment to let me know where in the world you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. It's always such a joy to see all the places we gather from, each in our own little slice of time. Now, feel free to dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for a soft background hum, and let's gently begin our journey into the senses together. And if your mind begins to wander, that's perfectly fine. Let it drift. We'll still be here, quietly unfolding the story. Let's start softly with a thought. What if you've never truly seen the world? You've seen your version of it, of course, but the colours you experience, the depth you interpret, the way light and shadow arrange themselves into familiar shapes, those are all translations. They are messages sent from the eye to the brain, interpreted through layers of memory, tension, mood and expectation. You don't see reality. You see what your brain has decided is most useful at that moment, which is a strange thing to consider, especially as you lie back in the dark surrounded by the gentle blur of nighttime stillness. And this isn't just true of sight. Every sense you think you know, every taste, every touch, every sound is filtered, edited, adjusted. The world reaches you through nerve endings and vibrations, molecules and movement, and from that chaos, your brain weaves a coherent experience. It's not just receiving the music of the world, it's arranging it, tuning it, even composing parts of it. You might have grown up learning about the 5 senses: sight, hearing, taste, touch, and smell. But as science has crept deeper into the mind, we've come to realize that the truth is far richer and far stranger. There are at minimum 15, possibly more. You have a sense of balance, for instance, which lets you walk upright even with your eyes closed. You have proprioception, the ability to know where your limbs are even when you can't see them. You have interoception, that quiet radar tuned to your breath, your heartbeat, your hunger, and the temperature of your skin. You can feel time passing. You can feel pain. You can sense heat from a flame or cold from a breeze before either ever touches you. Some scientists even argue you have a magnetic sense, however faint, left over from long evolutionary trails. Some say we might even detect direction, like internal compasses hidden in our cells. And still, somehow, all of these distinct threads are tied together into one experience. That experience is called you. As you breathe right now, you're engaging 100 small systems in harmony. The coolness of the air, the pressure in your lungs, the distant hum of your environment, the way your sheets press against your body, the flicker of thoughts behind your eyelids. All of it, one moment, one constructed now. And it's not random, it's symphonic. Your brain isn't a recorder, it's a composer, a conductor, a quiet genius that takes billions of signals from the world and from inside you and blends them into something continuous and meaningful. That's what we'll explore tonight. The sensory symphony that never stops playing, not even in sleep. You'll meet the instruments and the melodies, the strange moments where one sense takes over another, the gentle illusions that trick you in daily life, the mystery of how you know where your foot is, even in the dark. We'll talk about how the sense of smell slips defectly into a memory, how a single touch can feel like safety, and how taste is never just taste. It's sound, texture, temperature, and emotion, all at once. Along the way, we'll discover how your perception is not just biology, it's story, it's narrative. Your senses shape not just what you experience, but how you feel about it. The brain doesn't just reflect the world, it makes meaning of it. Which means, in a way, you're not just observing reality, you're participating in it. So settle in, take another deep breath, let go of whatever's clinging to the edges of your day, and imagine just for now that your body is an orchestra of awareness, and that tonight we're going to sit quietly in the front row, listening to each instrument in turn. This is your sensory symphony, and it's just beginning. Let's begin, not with sound or scent, but with the sense most of us lean on without even thinking about it. Sight, or more precisely the illusion of sight. You see the world through two soft, watery globes, delicate orbs housed in bone and lined with layers as thin as dreams. And yet from these tiny windows, an entire world unfolds. Light, that ancient traveller, enters your eyes. It reflects off everything, walls, faces, books, blades of grass, and is gathered in through the curved lens of your cornea. It's bent, shaped, focused. It moves through the pupil, which contracts and dilates like a curious gatekeeper, letting in just the right amount. And then, that light dances across your retina, the paper-thin canvas at the back of your eye. On that fragile patch of tissue lie millions of photoreceptors, rods and cones, waiting silently in the dark. The rods are your night watchmen. They work in grayscale, detecting shape and motion when light is low. You owe them for your ability to see the outline of your bookshelf at 3 a.m, or the soft glow of moonlight sneaking in through a curtain. The cones, on the other hand, are the painters. They respond to colour, red, green, blue, and mix every hue you've ever known. A sunset, a ripe peach, the deep blue of your favourite sweater. They make the world vibrant, not just visible. But even here, at this very first stage, what you're seeing is not the world as it is. It's coded light, chemical reactions, tiny electrical signals sent through the optic nerve. Light becomes language, and language becomes experience. Here's the strangest part. You don't actually see with your eyes. You see with your brain. The brain receives the signals and begins interpreting, filling in gaps, editing, stabilizing. Your eyes shake constantly in tiny movements called saccades, but the brain smooths that out so you don't notice. There's a blind spot where the optic nerve exits your eye. No receptors there at all. But your brain guesses and patches over it like an expert painter. Look around your room right now, or just imagine it. The edges of your vision are blurry and your mind fills in the corners with assumptions. The image you think you're seeing, the clear, steady picture of your space, is largely fabricated. But your brain is a masterful editor. It notices what's important, ignores the rest, and filters the world into something coherent. It's more like reading a well-designed story than watching a raw feed. It even guesses ahead. If you're watching a bird fly across the sky or a raindrop slip down a window pane, your brain is predicting where it will go next, calculating trajectories with subconscious precision. That's why you can catch a falling mug or follow a thrown ball without needing to do any math. The math is being done quietly behind the scenes. And light is not just physics, it's emotion. Think of the warm flicker of a candle, the golden hue of late afternoon, the icy glow of a phone screen in the dark. Light paints mood as much as space. When you recall a memory, often it's the light you remember first. Sunlight through leaves, fluorescent glow in a classroom, Christmas lights blinking softly in a quiet living room. These are visual anchors, not just of what was there, but of how it felt to be there. Your sense of sight doesn't just show you the world, It tells you stories about it. Sometimes that story is accurate. Sometimes it's biased, selective, or completely wrong. Think of optical illusions, those strange images where lines bend that don't really bend, where still shapes appear to move, where a shadow makes one colour look different from another. Your brain isn't being fooled. It's just doing what it always does, making its best guess based on the information it has, because that's the secret of vision. It's a collaboration between light and neurons, between biology and expectation. You bring your entire life of memories to every moment you see. That's why a painting can move you, why an empty street can feel ominous, why the same sunset looks different depending on who you're with. You're not just watching the world, you're interpreting it. And that interpretation is deeply human. Even when you close your eyes, your mind paints pictures, dreams, daydreams, memories, all visualized on the screen of the mind. That's how powerful this sense is. Even without light, your brain still wants to see. So the next time you look around at a flickering candle or the soft glow of your phone as you read this, remember, your eyes are only part of the equation. The real act of seeing is happening deeper, quieter, in the folds of your brain. And the world you see, it's not a photograph. It's a painting created in real time by a brain that never stops interpreting light. Let's slip gently now from light into sound. Close your eyes if they aren't closed already. And listen, not to this voice, but to the soft hum behind it. Maybe there's a ticking clock or distant traffic, a breeze brushing against the window, the rhythmic murmur of your own breath. Sound is the shape of vibration, and your ability to hear it is nothing short of magical. It begins, simply enough, with waves. Tiny ripples in the air set in motion by something moving. A plucked string, a creaking floorboard, a voice calling from the next room. These waves travel invisibly through space, dancing their way toward your ears. And when they arrive, they don't knock loudly. They nudge. The outer ear, its curves and folds, funnels these waves inward, toward the eardrum, that thin, taut membrane hidden in the dark. And with each wave the eardrum vibrates, like a stretched canvas quivering beneath a brushstroke. Behind it, 3 of the smallest bones in your body, nicknamed the hammer, the anvil, and the stirrup, pass the vibrations along. These bones are ancient relics of evolution, shaped by time and tuned to delicacy. They amplify the sound and send it deeper still into the cochlea. The cochlea is where the magic sharpens. Imagine a tiny spiraled seashell filled with fluid and lined with thousands of delicate hair cells. As vibrations ripple through the fluid, those hairs sway and bend, each one responding to a different frequency. High pitches activate hairs near the entrance. Deeper, lower tones reach farther in. It's like an invisible keyboard, where each note has a place, and when the hairs move, they generate electrical signals, messages that travel along the auditory nerve and into your brain. But once again, it's not the ears that do the hearing, it's the brain. Inside your temporal lobes, the sound signals are sorted, labelled, compared, remembered. Some are recognised instantly. A loved one's voice, your favourite song, the ding of milliliter. Others are unfamiliar, and your brain gets to work figuring them out. It guesses, fills in gaps, and even predicts what should come next. That's why you can understand someone on a noisy phone line, or follow the melody of a half-remembered tune. Your brain isn't just listening, it's reconstructing. And it doesn't do this alone. Sound is never isolated. Your brain blends it with memory, with vision, with emotion. Consider this: if you're watching someone speak, and their mouth forms the shape of one sound, but the audio plays another, your brain may override your ears and make you hear what your eyes expect. It's called the McGurk effect. A quiet reminder that your senses don't work in silos. They collaborate. They negotiate. But hearing isn't just technical. It's emotional. A song can bring you to tears or lift you into a memory you'd forgotten you still carried. A lullaby sung long ago, the sizzle of something cooking in the kitchen, the sound of laughter drifting through a wall. These aren't just noises, they're experiences, wrapped in time and meaning. And like light, sound can change your mood without asking permission. The murmur of waves can soothe you. So can the gentle hiss of rain on the roof. Cafes hum with warmth not just because of the coffee, but because of the overlapping voices, the clink of cups, the easy background music that signals comfort and safety. Even slants has its shape. In truth, there is no pure stance. If you sit still enough, you'll begin to hear the internal orchestra, the whisper of your own breath, the faint ringing of your nervous system, the heartbeat muffled within your chest. Monks in deep meditation sometimes describe hearing the sound of stillness, a paradoxical hum of being. Your brain is always listening. Even in sleep, your ears are never truly off. That's why a baby's cry can rouse a parent instantly, or why you might dream of a ringing phone just before waking to one. Sound weaves itself into your subconscious, and like vision, your hearing is not passive, it's selective. Your brain filters out the refrigerator buzz, the whir of the fan, the shuffling feet down the hallway. Decides what matters, what deserves your attention. This is called the cocktail party effect, your brain's ability to tune into a single voice in a crowd and ignore everything else. A marvel of focus, woven into your perception like a secret spotlight. But sound can also overwhelm. A sudden crash, a blaring alarm. These aren't just loud, they're activating. Your amygdala, the brain's emotional sentinel, springs to life. Sound becomes signal, something urgent, something to act upon. That's why certain sounds make your heart race, while others, the slow turning of pages, the steady rhythm of waves, slow it down again. So tonight, as you drift off, notice the quiet acoustics of your space. Notice how this voice rides waves of air to your ears, through tiny bones, through a spiral of fluid into the soft folds of thought. Notice how even now your brain is transforming vibration into meaning. And let it remind you that hearing isn't just detection, it's translation, it's recognition, it's emotion made audible. Let's begin with a question. Have you ever caught the faintest whiff of something, a certain soap, a drifting perfume, the earthy scent of rain on dry pavement, and suddenly felt as though you'd fallen backwards through time? That's not imagination. That's your brain, being quietly loyal to a memory it filed away years ago, by smell. Among all your senses, smell is the most nostalgic, and that's no accident. It's biological. Smell, like all senses, begins with molecules, tiny invisible fragments floating in the air, moving through space until they meet your nose. And inside your nose, just beneath the bridge, is a small patch of tissue, no bigger than a postage stamp, lined with olfactory receptors. These receptors are chemical gatekeepers. They catch specific shapes of molecules and, with a kind of microscopic handshake, recognize them as scents. There are hundreds of different types of these receptors, and together they allow you to detect thousands of smells, sometimes in concentrations as faint as a few parts per billion. A few molecules per breath, and your brain knows whether something is warm bread, blooming jasmine, or danger in disguise. But here's where smell becomes something more than chemistry. Unlike sight or sound, which route through layers of processing and relay stations in the brain, smell takes a shortcut. It travels directly to the olfactory bulb, which is part of your limbic system, the region responsible for memory and emotion. This is why scent is so powerfully tied to your past. A grandmother's house, a campfire in early fall, the smell of a bookshop or the rubbery tang of a childhood toy. These smells aren't just remembered, they're felt. Smell doesn't just remind you of the past, it transports you there. Now, taste. Taste begins not in the brain, but in the mouth. On your tongue are clusters of taste buds, each one containing 50 to 100 specialized receptor cells. These cells detect 5 primary tastes: sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami. But taste, as you know it, is never alone. Take a moment to imagine biting into a fresh strawberry. You don't just taste sweetness, you notice its temperature, its texture, the way it resists and then gives, the slight tartness that follows the sugar, the scent rising up from the inside of your mouth to your nose through the retronasal passage. You even hear it, the faint squish, the subtle snap. This is called flavour, and flavour is multisensory. The brain blends taste with smell, texture, temperature, sound, and even expectation to create the experience of flavour. That's why food tastes dull when you're congested. Your taste buds are still working, but your sense of smell is muted, and the orchestra of flavour loses one of its lead instruments. Even the sound of food affects taste. Crispness, for example, is not just a texture. It's a sound your brain associates with freshness. In one experiment, participants rated potato chips as fresher and more flavourful, and the crunching sound was amplified in their headphones. Expectations too colour your experience. If you're told a wine is expensive, it may taste better, not because it is, but because your brain adjusts the flavour experience to match your beliefs. Taste is not just on your tongue, it's in your mind, and it's deeply personal. Some people are super tasters with more densely packed taste buds and heightened sensitivity to bitterness. Others are less sensitive, needing more flavour to feel satisfied. Culture, too, plays a role. What tastes normal to you might feel entirely foreign to someone else. Fermented foods, spices, sweetness levels, these are learned, emotional, and contextual. Your brain builds preferences not just from biology, but from experience. And behind it all, silently working, is the brain, blending signals, assigning meaning, connecting flavours to emotions, linking sense to memories, crafting identity through the act of nourishment. You aren't just tasting food, you're remembering your life. In fact, both smell and taste are quiet protectors too. Rotten food smells foul for a reason. Bitterness alerts you to possible toxins. Sourness to spoilage. The pleasure of sweetness evolved to draw you to calorie-rich fruits. Your preferences carry whispers of ancient survival strategies. But food is not just fuel, and scent is not just warning. They are together the most intimate of the senses. When someone bakes bread for you or cooks you soup when you're sick, those aren't just acts of care. They're deeply sensorial gifts. They comfort not only your body, but your memory and emotion. So tonight, as you breathe in, notice the subtle traces in the air, the way the room smells after the lights have dimmed, the lingering scent of fabric softener on your blanket, the breath of air from an open window. These are messages, memory fragments, quiet signals your brain is collecting and interpreting whether you realise it or not. And because you should dream of food, or wake up craving something you haven't had in years, that's not just hunger, that's a sensory longing, a piece of your past gently resurfacing. Smell and taste don't just help you survive, they remind you where and who you've been. Take a moment now to become aware of your skin, not any one part, just the quiet totality of it, the stretch of it across your hands, the gentle press of fabric on your arms, the spot where your heel touches the bed. That, right there, is your sense of touch in action. Not loud, not demanding, but always present. Touch is the first sense you develop, long before you open your eyes or hear your first sound. Even in the womb you feel. The walls around you, the rhythm of movement, the soft rolling hush of a body that carries you. And once you enter the world, touch remains your primary translator, the thing that tells you what's safe, what's warm, what's comforting. Your skin is not just a boundary, it's a landscape, vast and exquisitely sensitive. It contains millions of sensory receptors, each tuned to a different signal. Some respond to pressure, others to texture, some to vibration, some to temperature. Some are tuned to light caresses, others to the sharp alarms of pain. Together they form a map, and your brain is constantly reading that map. When you run your hand across a soft blanket, You're not just registering softness, you're detecting fibres, air resistance, friction, warmth. When you hold a cup of tea, you feel its shape, weight, and the gentle radiation of heat into your fingers. When someone places a hand gently on your shoulder, your body understands not just pressure, but intent. There's even a specific set of nerve fibres called CST tactile afferents that are tuned not to texture or temperature, but to emotionally pleasant touch, a soft stroke, a slow caress. These receptors aren't just registering contact, they're sending messages to your brain that say, this is sour, this is kind, this is connection, and your brain responds. Touch lowers cortisol levels, it slows your heart rate, it increases oxytocin, the hormone of bonding, a hug, a pat, a hand squeeze. These are not just gestures, they are biochemical lullabies. But not all touch is soothing. Your skin also speaks in alarms. Pain is your body's warning system, sharp, hot, sudden, aching. Each kind of pain speaks a different dialect. Sharp pain might signal injury, dull ache might signal inflammation, burning pain might warn of damage. All of these help protect you, guide you, teach you what to avoid. Touch tells you about the outside world, but also about the state of your own body. An itch, a tingle, the awareness of sweat or goosebumps, these are messages. Your nervous system is not just watching the world, it's watching you. And like your other senses, touch is not just physical, it's shaped by context and memory. The same pressure, let's say a firm hand on your arm, can feel reassuring in one moment, intrusive in another. A gentle tap might startle, a sudden touch might soothe. Your past, your mood, your culture, all of it colours how you feel what you feel. Touch is deeply subjective, and it's deeply missed when gone. People who experience sensory loss in the skin due to nerve damage, aging, or certain conditions often describe it as disorienting, even lonely. Not because pain or temperature is lost, but because the conversation between self and world has grown quieter. To be touched is to be known. To feel your foot press against the ground is to know where you are. To wrap yourself in a blanket is to draw a soft boundary around your space. Even now, as you lie in bed or curl into your evening, your sense of touch is anchoring you. You may feel the rise and fall of your breath against the pillow, the coolness of a breeze brushing past your cheek, the subtle weight of the night wrapped around your skin. You don't need to think about it. Your body already knows. And that's perhaps the most beautiful thing about touch. It happens before thought. It speaks without words. It says, you're here, you're not floating, not lost in the abstract. You're wrapped in sensation, pressed into fabric, cradled by your own nervous system. And this touch, this constant conversation with the world, is not just for survival, it's for belonging. Your skin, in all its quiet brilliance, is the instrument that lets you feel at home. Not just in rooms or in relationships, but in yourself. It is, quite literally, the place you live. So take one more slow breath. Feel the air glide in, stretch your ribs, shift the blanket. That's touch too, and in its own way, it's telling you the truth. You're alive. You're connected. You're safe. Try this. Close your eyes and touch your fingertip to the tip of your nose. Chances are you'll succeed. And not because you saw your hand move, but because you felt it move. You knew where your finger was and where your nose was, even with no light, no sound, and no guidance from the outside world. That knowing is called proprioception, your quiet, constant sense of body position. It's not something you were taught to notice. No one in school made a chart of it like they did with the 5 familiar senses, but it's with you always, keeping track of where your limbs are, how they're moving, and how much effort you're using to move them. It's the sense that lets you walk without staring at your feet, that lets you scratch an itch behind your ear, that lets you type, stretch, dance, climb stairs, or fumble for the light switch in the dark. It's how you know when your arm is reaching too far or your foot is about to miss a step. It's the body's built-in spatial awareness. Inside your muscles, joints, and tendons are tiny receptors, like microscopic reporters, sending constant updates to your brain. They tell it how stretched or contracted each muscle is, what angle your joints are held at, whether your hand is open or clenched, whether your leg is lifting or planting. You're not aware of these signals most of the time. They run in the background, like the soft whir of a fan you only notice when it stops. But without them, everything becomes harder. Have you ever had your arm fall asleep, truly asleep to the point where you couldn't tell where it was? That strange, floating, almost alien feeling? That's what it's like to lose proprioception. Sensation fades, but more disturbingly, location fades. You might reach for something and miss. You might feel clumsy or disconnected from your own body. It's a rare condition, but there are people who have lost proprioception entirely due to injury or neurological illness. They describe it not as pain, but as absence, like their body became invisible to itself. Movement becomes something that has to be watched constantly, as if you're piloting a robot without feedback. But for most of us, proprioception works quietly, faithfully, invisibly. Think of the last time you reached behind you for something, or turned your head while keeping your balance, or wiggled your toes inside your shoes. Your brain knew where everything was and how it was moving without needing to stop and ask. This sense is what makes fluidity possible. It's what gives grace to dancers, precision to athletes, and even ease to the simplest tasks, like sipping tea without spilling it, or scratching your ankle without looking down. Even walking relies on proprioception. It's not just muscle memory, it's real-time feedback. With each step, your body makes thousands of tiny adjustments, measuring joint angles, muscle tension, balance, and momentum. You don't think about it, but your nervous system does constantly. And when this system gets disrupted by injury, fatigue, alcohol, or illness, you feel it. You stumble, you bump into things, you drop your keys, you knock the spoon off the table. These little moments aren't failures, they are whispers from your proprioceptive map, asking for rest, recalibration, or maybe just a slower pace. Yoga and Tai Chi are both beautiful reminders of this sense in action. These slow, deliberate practices don't just stretch the body, they train awareness of the body's position in space, standing on one foot, reaching overhead, twisting, bending, balancing. They call proprioception forward from the background. They make it conscious. Children too develop this sense over time. That's why toddlers wobble and crash into furniture while older kids can hop and skip with confidence. It's not just muscle, it's mapping. And like any map, your proprioceptive awareness can be honed or dulled. Lack of movement, excessive screen time, and sedentary habits can shrink your body's sense of itself. But movement, especially gentle, varied, mindful movement, brings it back online. It's not about intensity, it's about attention. The more you listen to your body in motion, the more fluent this inner sense becomes. So tonight, as you shift beneath the covers, notice how your body knows where your limbs are. You don't need to look. You can feel your arm bent at the elbow, your foot tucked under your knee, your shoulder pressed into the mattress. You can imagine standing up right now and walking in the diuk, and your brain would already begin simulating the steps. This is proprioception, the sense of self in space. It doesn't come with colours or favours or sounds. It doesn't need light. It doesn't need language. But it is essential. It anchors you. It tells you you're still here, whole, oriented, capable of moving in the world even in total silence. And like the soft beat of a drum at the back of the orchestra, it keeps the rhythm for the rest of the senses. A sense not of seeing or touching, but of being. Now, gently turn your attention inward. Not to your hands or the surface of your skin, but deeper. Can you feel your breath? Not the air itself, but the rise and fall it causes in your chest. Can you sense the fullness of your stomach? The pace of your heartbeat? The soft whisper of thirst? The slow creep of fatigue? This is interoception, the quiet, continuous perception of your body's internal state. It's not something we usually think about. In fact, part of its magic is that it works below awareness, until something goes wrong. You might not notice your heartbeat until it races. You don't always feel hunger until it sharpens. You might not realise you've been holding your breath until you sigh. but all along your body has been listening to itself, and your brain has been watching. Interoception is the sense that tells you how you're doing. It measures the body's internal conditions, temperature, hydration, heart rate, blood pressure, oxygen levels, digestion, and sends constant updates to the brain. These signals pass through pathways in the spinal cord and vagus nerve and arrive primarily in the insula, a region of the brain tucked deep in the cerebral cortex. It's there that the raw data becomes something more. Not just your stomach is empty, but you are hungry. Not just your heart is beating faster, but you are anxious. Because interoception isn't just about the body, it's about emotion. Many scientists now believe that emotions begin with interoception. That what we call sadness, joy, anger, or calm are not simply mental states, but bodily ones, felt and interpreted by the brain. A racing heart might be fear or excitement. A clenched stomach might be dread or anticipation. The difference often comes down to context and how your brain reads the incoming signals. In this way, interoception becomes a kind of inner weather report. Some days your internal world is calm like a still lake. Other days there's a storm of breath and pulse and restlessness that rolls in without warning. Learning to read these patterns doesn't stop them from coming, but it can help you understand them and respond with more kindness. Mindfulness practices often focus here, not on trying to change the body's signals, but on noticing them without judgment. Feeling the inhale and exhale, tuning into the heartbeat, listening to the quiet waves of your own existence. Interoception helps with that. It helps you feel like you're real, not just thinking, but being. It's also how your body maintains homeostasis, is delicate balance. When you're cold, interoception triggers shivering. When you're too hot, you sweat. When sugar levels drop, you feel tired and crave food. When your bladder fills, you get a gentle reminder to seek a bathroom. These are not distractions, they are signals of care, messages sent from the body to keep you alive and well. But like all senses, interoception varies from person to person. Some people are highly attuned. They can sense a slight shift in breath or detect the subtlest flutter of unease before their thoughts catch up. Others may have reduced interoceptive awareness, especially in conditions like autism, anxiety disorders, depression or alexithymia, a difficulty identifying internal feelings. And when interoception is too loud, it can become overwhelming. Panic attacks, for example, often begin with the sudden awareness of an increased heart rate or tightness in the chest. The signals may be harmless, but the brain interprets them as danger, triggering a cascade of fear. The body's message was simple: something is shifting, but it was heard as an alarm. The same can happen with chronic pain, digestive discomfort, or fatigue. When internal signals are ambiguous or unpleasant, the brain may struggle to make sense of them, and we're left feeling distressed, disconnected, or vaguely unwell. This is where gentle curiosity can help. Instead of resisting the body's messages or trying to drown them out, we can listen more softly. Place a hand on the chest and feel the rhythm. Notice the fullness of a breath. Ask, what is my body saying right now? Not to fix or change it, but simply to hear. Because interoception isn't about control, it's about relationship. Your body is not a machine, it's not a vehicle for the brain, it is the landscape of your life. And interoception is how that landscape tells you its weather, its seasons, its needs. You don't need to optimize it, you don't need to monitor every heartbeat. You just need to let the conversation continue. Let the breath rise and fall, let hunger be felt. Let tiredness mean rest, not failure. Even now as you rest, interoception is still working. Your body is adjusting, recalibrating, maintaining warmth, pulse, pressure. You might not feel it directly, but it's there. And if you lie still enough, you might start to notice a slight fullness in the lungs, the pulse in your neck, quiet gurgle from digestion, the faint shift as your body prepares for sleep. That's interoception, the the body's soft voice, not shouting, not demanding, just reminding you with gentle regularity, you are alive and you are listening. Now imagine standing up in the dark. You're barefoot. The room is silent. You take a step forward, and though you can't see where the floor ends or the ceiling begins, you don't fall. You're upright, steady. Somehow your body knows which way is down. That knowing, the ability to balance, to stay oriented in space, to sense motion and stillness even without sight, is the work of your vestibular system. It's not as obvious as vision or hearing. You don't notice it unless something goes wrong. But it's always there, whispering information into your awareness like a soft, stabilizing hand on your shoulder. The vestibular system lives inside your inner ear in a set of tiny structures known as the semicircular canals and otolith organs. They're no bigger than a fingernail curled deep within your skull, and they're filled with fluid, crystals and hair-like sensors that respond to movement. Each time you tilt your head, shift your weight or turn around, these sensors detect the motion and direction of your body in space. The semicircular canals pick up rotational movement like spinning, turning or looking over your shoulder. The otoliths detect linear acceleration, like moving forward in a car or tipping backward in a chair. And together they tell your brain where you are, how fast you're moving and which way is up. The information travels through the vestibular nerve, feeding into the brainstem and cerebellum, regions responsible for coordination, eye movement and posture. From there, the brain integrates the data with input from your eyes and muscles to keep you balanced and centered. It's this integration that makes balance so seamless until it isn't. If you've ever felt dizzy after spinning in a circle or unsteady after stepping off a merry-go-round, you've felt the vestibular system in conflict. The fluid in your canals keeps moving even after your body has stopped, sending signals that say, "We are still spinning," while your eyes insist otherwise. This mismatch is what creates vertigo, and it's a potent reminder of how your brain builds trust between systems. When vision, touch and balance disagree, your perception stumbles. Motion sickness works the same way, especially when you're reading in a moving car. Your inner ear feels motion, but your eyes, locked onto a still page, see none. The result? Nausea, fatigue, unease. Your brain doesn't like being lied to by its own senses, but in everyday life the vestibular system is beautifully subtle. It's what lets you walk downstairs without looking at your feet, what keeps your gaze stable even when your head moves, what allows you to ride a bike, roll over in bed, or close your eyes in the shower without losing balance. It's also why falling feels so strange, not just physically but emotionally, because balance is tied to trust. In your body, in space, in gravity itself. When we stumble even slightly, there's a sudden disruption. The floor doesn't behave the way we expected. The body doesn't respond as it should. And for a moment, we feel so lost. That's why falling dreams are so common. They reflect the body's deep-rooted relationship with orientation. A fear not just of failure, but of disconnection from the ground that holds us. And yet this sense can also be comforting. Think of being gently rocked in a hammock, of swaying on a boat, or swinging back and forth under a tree. These movements lull us because they rhythmically engage the vestibular system, like a mother rocking a child. In fact, for infants, rocking is one of the earliest ways to calm the nervous system. Even now, as an adult, a slow sway can quiet the mind. You might find yourself rocking slightly while standing in line, or shifting side to side when anxious. These are not just habits, they are soothing motions, speaking directly to the brain's balance centers. And in sleep, the vestibular system continues its quiet work. Have you ever felt yourself falling just as you began to doze off, only to jolt awake? That's called a hypnic jerk, and it's believed to be a reflex triggered by a brief miscommunication between your motor and vestibular systems. A small reminder that your body still keeps watch, even in dreams. Some researchers believe the vestibular sense also plays a subtle role in mood and mental clarity. Disruptions to balance, whether from illness, aging or disorientation, can lead not only to dizziness, but to anxiety and cognitive fog. When your internal compass wavers, your sense of stability, in every sense, can feel shaken. That's why gentle movement can be so therapeutic. Practices like Tai Chi, dance, walking meditations, or simply lying on the floor with your knees gently swaying side to side all engage the vestibular system in calming, rhythmic ways. So tonight, as you lie in stillness, take a moment to appreciate that you know where you are. Even with your eyes closed, your brain is tracking the angle of your head, the position of your spine, the weight of your body against the bed. You're not floating, you're grounded, held by gravity, aligned with space. You don't have to think about it. Your vestibular system is thinking for you. And in its quiet, reliable way, it's always saying you are here, you are upright, you are safe. Take a moment to notice the air on your skin. Is it cool against your face, warm beneath your blanket? Maybe there's a slight shift where your arm meets the sheets, or where your toes peek out from under the covers. Whatever it is, you don't have to reach out and touch a flame or a block of ice to feel temperature. It comes to you. This is thermoception, your sense of temperature. It doesn't make headlines the way vision or hearing do. It's not poetic like smell or profound like touch, but it's there, working with quiet diligence, helping your body stay not just comfortable, but alive. Thermoception works through a network of tiny sensors in your skin, called thermoreceptors. Some detect heat, others detect cold. They respond to the temperature of the air, the objects you touch, even the shift in blood flow beneath your skin. When they detect a change, they send signals through the spinal cord to the brain, particularly to an area called the hypothalamus, the control centre for body regulation. But here's what makes thermoception so elegant. It's not just about external sensation, it's about internal balance. Your body has an ideal operating range, around 37 degrees or 98.6 degrees. And to stay there, it constantly monitors its own temperature from the inside. If you get too warm, you sweat. If you get too cold, you shiver. These are not choices, they're reflexes, part of an ancient system of homeostasis, designed to protect the delicate machinery of your cells. You can feel this system at work when you step into a hot bath and your body sighs, or when you wrap cold fingers around a steaming mug and feel something deeper than just surface heat. It's comfort. That warmth isn't just a physical signal, it becomes an emotional one, because thermoception, like all the senses, is tied to feeling. Warmth isn't just a number, it's associated with safety, relaxation, even love. There's a reason we speak of someone as warm-hearted, or describe a cozy moment as warming the soul. Studies have shown that holding something warm can even make people perceive others as kinder, or more trustworthy. It goes the other way too. Cold is often linked with distance, discomfort, or vigilance. A chill down the spine, cold shoulders, cold feet. These metaphors aren't arbitrary. They reflect the deep connection between temperature and emotion, woven through years of lived experience. When you step outside on a brisk morning, your skin flinches first. Thermoreceptors activate, goosebumps form, and your body draws energy inward to conserve heat. You become a little more alert, a little more tense. Your awareness sharpens. But then, when you return inside into warmth, your body softens, muscles loosen, the edges of the world blur again. That shift isn't just physiological, it's psychological. It reminds you, here is a place to rest. Thermoception also helps you understand the world in subtle, tactile ways. You know the cup is hot before you sip. You know the sheets are cool when you slide into bed. You recognise the sun on your skin not just by light, but by the deep, gentle warmth that radiates through the fabric of your shirt. And just as vision gives you colour, and hearing gives you pitch, thermoception gives you temperature's texture. It lets you distinguish between the dry heat of a sunny sidewalk and the steamy heat of a bath, between the icy chill of wind and the deep, creeping cold of metal, between the cosy warmth of a blanket and the uncomfortable heat of an overheated room. And yet, for all its quiet precision, this sense is often underappreciated, until it changes. If you've ever run a fever, you've felt what happens when the internal thermostat is off. You feel cold even while burning up, or hot even in a cool room. The brain's perception of temperature is subjective, filtered through context, illness, mood. Some people with nerve damage or certain conditions like multiple sclerosis or autism may experience temperature in heightened or dulled ways. A warm shower might feel scalding, a breeze might sting, or temperature might be hard to detect at all. Like every sense, thermoception varies, fluid and deeply personal, and sometimes it becomes a form of communication. When a child presses cold hands to your neck and giggles, when a friend warms their hands by the same fire, when you slide into someone's space just to share a little heat. These are tiny temperature-based exchanges, but they are acts of care, signals of presence, body language spoken without words. Tonight you might find yourself curling under the covers, adjusting the sheets, or pulling the blanket closer, not because you're too cold, but because warmth feels like safety. Thermoception doesn't just tell you about the world, it tells you how close or far you are from comfort. So breathe in. Notice the way your skin responds to the room. Feel the contrast between the air and the blanket, the coolness of a pillowcase, the slow warming of your hands against your belly. These are the quiet textures of being. And your body, always listening, always adjusting, keeps the flame of your life at just the right temperature. Not all senses feel soft. Some are sharp, immediate, demanding of your attention. Among them is one that we often wish we could live without: pain. But pain, at least the kind we'll explore now, is not just an enemy. It is a messenger, a guardian, a language your body speaks when something isn't quite right. This is soothes, your nervous system's ability to detect and respond to potential harm. It's not pain itself. That comes later once the brain gets involved. Nociception is the raw signal, the early warning system. It's what allows you to pull your hand away from a hot stove before you've even registered the burn. It's why a stubbed toe can light up your whole body with sudden, all-consuming sensation. Nociceptors are specialized nerve endings embedded throughout your body. In the skin, muscles, joints, even internal organs. They come in several varieties, each tuned to a different kind of threat. Thermal nociceptors respond to extreme heat or cold. Mechanical nociceptors respond to pressure, cuts, or impact. Chemical nociceptors respond to things like inflammation, toxins, or injury byproducts. When one of these is activated, it sends a signal along nerve fibers to your spinal cord and then up to the brain. Sometimes the body acts before the brain even knows. That's a reflex, a built-in bypass designed to protect you when there's no time to think. But most of the time, pain is a collaboration. Your body says, something's wrong, and your brain answers, let's do something about it. Still, nociception doesn't guarantee that pain will feel the same every time, or for everyone. The brain filters these signals based on context, emotion, past experience, attention, even culture. The same paper cut might feel sharp and annoying one day, and barely noticeable the next if you're distracted or in a different mood. Athletes sometimes push through injury without realizing it. Soldiers may feel no pain in battle until the moment passes. Some people with chronic pain feel intense discomfort even without injury because the nervous system becomes sensitized, like a car alarm that goes off at the slightest breeze. And others may feel little or no pain at all, even when they should. There are rare individuals with congenital insensitivity to pain. They can break bones, burn themselves, or develop infections without ever feeling a thing. At first, this might sound like a superpower, but it isn't. Without pain, they lose one of the body's most vital feedback loops. They often suffer serious injuries simply because there is no signal to stop or protect. Pain may not be pleasant, but it teaches. It tells you to pull back, to rest, to change course. It creates memory, often deeply etched, so you know what to avoid in the future. And not all pain is physical. There's a fascinating overlap between emotional pain and physical pain in the brain. Regions like the anterior cingulate, Cortex and insula light up in both cases. A breakup, a loss, a harsh word. They can feel like a punch to the chest. That's not just metaphor. That's your brain mapping distress onto the body, trying to get your attention. In fact, even the language of pain crosses boundaries. Heartache is gut-wrenching, a pain in the neck, a stab of grief. Your body doesn't draw neat lines between physical and emotional experience. It simply reacts. And yet nociception is not cruel, it's protective. It tells you when you've gone too far, when something's too hot, when your posture is off, your ankle is strained, your joints need rest. It's not trying to make you suffer, it's trying to keep you safe. There are even times when pain becomes strangely soothing, like the ache of a sore muscle after exercise, or the sting of a hot shower on tired skin. In small expected doses, pain can be folded into pleasure. It reminds you that your body is working, healing, feeling, and when pain fades, when the cut scabs over, the bruise yellows, the headache lifts, there's often a quiet sense of return, of relief, of clarity. A reminder of how the absence of pain is its own kind of peace. So tonight, as you lie still, you might feel a few aches. A shoulder pulling, a muscle humming, a twinge in the knee or the jaw. Don't rush to judge them, just notice. Each one is a signal, not of failure but of attention. Your body is not angry with you, it's communicating. Nociception is not meant to punish, it is meant to protect, to say, this part of me matters. Please take care. And in that, even pain becomes part of the symphony. Not a dissonant note, but a purposeful one. A reminder that you are not numb, you are not detached, you are alive, and still listening. Take a deep breath. Now hold it for just a mo and release. That pause you just experienced was time, not the ticking of a clock, but your perception of passing. That's chronoception, your quiet internal sense of time. It isn't bound to seconds or minutes. It doesn't wear a watch. It flows and folds, stretches and contracts, depending on what you're doing, how you're feeling, and even where your attention goes. Chronoception is not located in a single spot in the brain. Rather, it's a symphony of interactions across the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which regulates circadian rhythms, the cerebellum, which tracks movement and timing, and regions of the prefrontal cortex that handle memory, emotion, and attention. Unlike your eyes or ears, you don't have a time organ. There's no receptor tucked behind the ribs that senses time in molecules or waves. Instead, you construct time from rhythms, patterns, and change. Think of how time feels when you're all waiting in line, watching the seconds crawl. Now think of how it feels when you're lost in a good conversation or falling into a nap, and suddenly hours have passed. The difference isn't the clock, it's you. Chronoception is deeply tied to attention. When you focus inward, on bodily signals, boredom, discomfort, time expands. Every moment becomes noticeable. But when you're immersed, engaged, surprised, in flow, time collapses. The brain stops marking each passing second and simply moves forward. This is why time slows down in danger. If you have ever been in an accident, you may remember that eerie, stretched feeling, as if everything were unfolding in slow motion. That's not adrenaline speeding up your thoughts. That's your brain recording more information per second, a flood of sensory detail that makes the memory feel longer in retrospect. And in childhood, time feels vast. A summer seemed endless. A year stretched forever. That's partly because everything was new. Your brain was collecting more detail, more firsts. As you age, repetition condenses time. The days blur. Holidays arrive sooner. Wasn't it just January, you ask, while staring at a calendar in October? But your sense of time isn't just about duration. It's about rhythm. Your body runs on cycles, daily, monthly, seasonal. The circadian rhythm, governed by the brain's internal clock, tells you when to wake and when to sleep. It responds to light, temperature, and hormones. That's why jet lag disorients you, why shift work feels unnatural, why you feel drowsy at night, even if nothing else is happening. Sleep, digestion, alertness, body temperature, all of them move to time's invisible beat, and this rhythm shapes mood, memory, and perception. A moment of sadness feels longer than a moment of joy. Anticipation slows time, while nostalgia softens it. Your past is marked not by exact dates, but by feelings of time. That winter when everything changed, or the spring I met you. Chronoception even shows up in your movement. Try walking with your eyes closed. You'll slow down, not just because of caution, but because your sense of distance and time have lost their usual companions. When you can't see the world pass by, time becomes untethered. You start to measure by footfall, by heartbeat, by the rhythm of your breath. It's in your language too. I lost track of time. Time stood still. Where did the time go? These aren't just figures of speech, they're reflections of a living experience, shaped inside your brain every day. And yet time is strangely flexible. It feels different when you're cold or hungry or lonely. It feels different when you're in love or sick or half awake. Time seems to slow in meditation. It speeds up when you scroll endlessly through your phone. It drips during insomnia and disappears in dreams. Some neuroscientists believe the dopamine system plays a role. Higher dopamine levels may compress time while lower levels stretch it. Others point to the brain's default mode network, the system active during daydreaming and introspection, as a possible time meter. But still, no one fully understands how the brain makes time feel. Because really, time is not what we think it is. There's the mechanical time, objective, atomic, predictable, the time of watches and calendars. And then there's felt time, subjective, emotional, personal, the time of memories and moments. And it's the second kind that most defines your life. When you look back, it's not the number of minutes you remember. It's the shape of them. How they stretched, how they rushed, how they folded around people and places, scented and lit by the senses we've already explored. So tonight, as you rest, let go of clock time. Let time become tide soft and slow. Let it wash over you, not in ticks or tocks, but in the drift between one breath and the next. There's no need to measure it. It doesn't need a name. You're not late, you're not early. You're simply here in this moment, and that is enough. Imagine you're biting into a crisp apple. You hear the crunch, feel the snap against your teeth, taste the blend of sweet and sour. Smell the subtle floral note of the skin. See the glint of juice at the edge of the bite. You might not realize it, but in that single moment, you're using nearly every sense you have, and you're not using them separately. You're using them together, woven into one seamless experience. That's multi-sensory integration, the brain's quiet ability to take in information from different senses and combine it into a single coherent reality. It happens constantly, invisibly. When you walk, your brain merges visual information with proprioception and vestibular input to keep you upright. When you speak, it blends the sound of your voice, the shape of your mouth, the feel of breath, and the vibration in your chest. When you eat, flavour is not taste alone. It's taste plus smell plus texture plus temperature plus sound. Your brain is not a switchboard where each sense has its own chord. It's an orchestra pit, and like a conductor, your brain listens to all the sections at once, balancing, blending, highlighting, softening. When one instrument, one sense, is louder or more important in the moment, it takes the lead. But the whole piece depends on how the senses work together. One famous example of this is the McGurk effect. It's a strange trick of the mind. If you watch a video of someone saying GA, but hear the audio for beer, you may end up perceiving a third sound entirely, like da. Your brain fuses the input from your eyes and ears into a new reality, based on what it expects those combined cues to mean. Even when the senses disagree, the brain tries to reconcile them. Another example is ventriloquism. When a puppet's mouth moves in sync with a voice, your brain attributes the sound to the puppet, even though it knows the voice is coming from somewhere else. That's because vision often dominates. It tends to be our most trusted guide, and the brain defers to it in moments of uncertainty. But this isn't always about illusions. Most of the time, multisensory integration is subtle. It's what makes virtual meetings feel a little off when the audio and video don't sync perfectly. It's why surround sound in a movie theatre makes the experience feel more immersive, and it's how your brain uses redundant signals, multiple cues from multiple senses, to increase accuracy and certainty. The brain constantly compares and cross-checks what it sees, hears, feels, and tastes. It asks quietly, does this match? Does it make sense together? If the answer is yes, your perception locks into place like a completed puzzle. And sometimes the blending of senses becomes even more dramatic. In people with synesthesia, stimulation in one sense leads to automatic experiences in another. A sound might evoke a colour, a number might feel like a texture, a name might taste. Sweet or bitter? This is not metaphor. It's perception, real, vivid, involuntary. And it offers a glimpse into how fluid the boundaries between senses can be. Even without full synesthesia, most people experience sensory crossover in daily life. Music can feel warm or cold. A flavour might sound sharp or round. Colours evoke moods. These aren't just poetic descriptions, they reflect the brain's tendency to link and layer sensations. When you close your eyes and imagine a place, a cafe, a forest, your childhood home, you likely remember not one dominant sense, but a web of impressions. The clatter of dishes, the smell of pine, the texture of old wallpaper. These mental scenes are multi-sensory recreations composed not in your eyes or ears, but in your brain. And the beauty of multi-sensory integration is that it's not fixed. It adapts, adjusts, improves. For example, if one sense becomes impaired, like sight or hearing, the brain often sharpens the others. This is not instant compensation, but an active process of neural rewiring, redirecting attention and resources to strengthen the symphony where it's needed most. And so your reality is not just sensed, it's composed. Your brain doesn't simply gather input like a camera recording footage. It edits, it emphasizes, it collaborates. Sometimes it guesses, sometimes it fills in the blanks, but always, it's listening to the whole ensemble. So tonight, as you lie quietly, notice the subtle ways your senses blend. The feeling of the blanket on your skin, the rustle of air from a fan, the soft glow behind your eyelids. Even your breathing, the sound of it, the feel of it, the rhythm of it, combines into a single lived moment. And that moment isn't being delivered to you. It's being built by a brain that, like a conductor with no sheet music, draws harmony out of sensation. You're not just sensing the world, you're orchestrating it. Right now, as you read these words, or perhaps listen to them, your brain is doing something remarkable. It's not just receiving input, it's guessing what's about to come next. This is not a trick. It's not impatience, it's simply how your brain works. At every moment, it's using past experience to predict the future. This is known as predictive coding, and it's one of the brain's most important and invisible jobs. You might think you perceive the world in real time, that you see and hear things exactly as they are, moment by moment. But that's not quite true. Reality reaches you with a slight delay, a delay your brain compensates for by filling in gaps, correcting errors, and anticipating what should be there. It's like watching a movie that's missing a few frames. Your brain fills them in so smoothly you don't even notice. Let's say you're walking through your house in the dark. You don't have to stop and analyse each step. You predict where the wall is. You expect the floor to be under your foot. You anticipate the shape of the doorknob in your hand. And your brain fills in those expectations unless something unexpected happens, like a toy left in the hallway or a chair that's been moved. Only then does prediction give way to surprise. The truth is, your brain would rather be right than surprised, because surprises require energy, corrections, attention, And in a world full of constant sensory data, prediction helps your brain stay efficient. It lets you focus on what matters. But this system isn't perfect. Sometimes your brain predicts wrong and still holds on to that prediction. That's how illusions work. Your brain fills in gaps with what should be there, not what is. It's how you can mishear lyrics, or see a face in the pattern of wallpaper, or jump when you mistake a shadow for a person. In fact, some scientists argue that hallucinations may be extreme cases of prediction gone unchecked, where the brain keeps guessing despite contradictory evidence. This doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're wired to imagine, even if just a little. And that imagination is part of what makes perception so human. You don't just see a red apple, you expect its taste, weight, and crispness. You don't just hear footsteps, you anticipate who they belong to, how they're walking, what kind of shoes they're wearing. Your brain constantly filters and shapes perception based on what it has learned. This process is so fundamental that even basic perception, like the colour you see, can shift based on expectation. One study showed participants a simple grey circle. When told it was part of a shadow, people saw it as lighter. When told it was in bright light, they saw it as darker. The circle didn't change, but context shaped the brain's guess. Even pain follows this rule. If you expect something to hurt, it often does, even if the physical cause is minimal. If you expect relief, you may feel better, even without medication. This is the essence of the placebo effect, which it isn't just in your head. It's your brain using belief to modify perception. This doesn't mean perception is unreliable. It means it's flexible. You're not a camera, you're a storyteller. Every moment is a draft, a hypothesis, a soft, maybe this is what's happening, whispered by the brain. And when new information arrives, the story adjusts. Or it clings stubbornly until evidence becomes too strong to ignore. There's something comforting in this. It means reality isn't just what hits your eyes or ears, it's something you help create. And sometimes, this co-creation can bring comfort. If you've ever seen a loved one's face in a blurry crowd, or heard your name whispered in white noise, you've felt your brain reaching for connection. Prediction isn't just functional, it's emotional. It reflects what matters to you. It even shapes your dreams. Dreams are often bizarre, not because your brain has stopped predicting, but because it's predicting without constraint, without feedback, without external reality to shape the guesses. In dreams, your brain fills in the world based solely on memory, emotion, and internal rhythm. And when you wake, those predictions fade. Back into reality's arms. Tonight, your brain is still predicting. It anticipates the next sound, the next word, the next breath. It expects the pillow to hold your head, the blanket to stay warm, the quiet to continue. And when all of that aligns, when your predictions match your experience, you feel safe. That's the heart of comfort, not the absence of sensation, but the match between what is and what you expect. So let your thoughts drift. Let the predictions soften. Let your brain, for once, expect nothing but rest, and trust that it will still be listening, still guessing, still gently scripting the world while you sleep. Imagine for a moment waking up in complete silence. Not the quiet you hear when the room is still, but real silence. No bird song, no hum of the fan, no rustling of the sheets. You open your mouth to speak and feel the movement, but nothing reaches your ears. This is what happens when a sense goes quiet. Whether it's hearing, sight, smell, or another sense entirely, the sudden absence can feel like a door closing. And yet your brain doesn't collapse in the silence. It adapts. Sensory loss, especially when it's gradual or congenital, doesn't leave the brain in a state of confusion forever. Instead, it awakens one of the brain's most remarkable features. Neuroplasticity, its ability to rewire, repurpose, and find new pathways. Let's take vision as an example. In people who are blind, especially those born without sight, the visual cortex, the area at the back of the brain typically devoted to processing images, doesn't just go to sleep, it gets recruited. for touch, for sound, even for language processing. The brain doesn't waste space. It rearranges the orchestra. It lets the cello section become percussion if needed. This is why many blind individuals develop heightened sensitivity in their other senses. Not superpowers, but finely tuned attention and reallocated brain real estate. Studies using functional MRI have shown that when blind people read Braille, their visual cortex activates. It processes touch as if it were vision, because for them, that is a form of seeing. And in some cases, blind individuals use a technique called echolocation, emitting subtle clicks with their mouth and interpreting the returning echoes to map their environment. Like bats, like dolphins, but with no training beyond necessity and focus. What was once seeing becomes hearing as spatial awareness. The same principle applies to deafness. When people lose their hearing, especially early in life, the auditory regions of their brain don't fade away. They begin to support visual and tactile input. Many deaf individuals have sharper peripheral vision and increased motion detection. Their brains lean into other modes of input, repurposing resources with elegant efficiency. Some even report a deepened awareness of vibration, feeling music not in the ears but in the chest, in the bones, in the floor beneath them. Sound doesn't disappear entirely, it finds another doorway in. And the adjustment isn't just sensory, it's emotional too. Losing a sense can be disorienting, isolating, but it also reshapes experience. It can deepen attention, change values, teach a kind of presence that is rare in an overstimulated world. People often find richness not in having all senses available, but in listening more closely to the ones that remain. Some people are born without certain senses, like those with anosmia, the inability to smell. For them, scent has never carried memory, never warned of smoke, never flavoured food. And yet, their world is not incomplete. It is simply shaped differently. They may learn to focus more on visual cues or texture in food, or to judge cleanliness and comfort through temperature, touch, and routine rather than scent. The body is never passive in loss. It compensates, not with bitterness, but with creativity. Even temporary loss, a blocked nose, a foggy ear after a cold, reminds us how much we rely on the seamless cooperation of senses, and how their absence is not only felt in detection, but in meaning. Smell enhances memory. Hearing shapes social connection. Vision anchors balance. Touch confirms presence. And when one of those layers fades, the brain doesn't give up. It rebalances. There's a quiet beauty in this. Just as an orchestra can shift the melody from flute to violin, the brain learns to redistribute perception, to let other instruments carry the tune. Not perfectly, not painlessly, but with grace. In some rare cases, a lost sense can even leave behind echoes. Phantom limbs, for instance, are sensations, sometimes painful, sometimes not, that occur in amputated body parts. The brain, still holding a map of the body, continues to send signals to places that no longer exist. And in doing so, it reminds us, perception is not only about the outside world, it's also about what the brain expects to find, and what it refuses to let go of. But that same brain, so stubborn, is also gentle. Given time and care, it can unlearn, rewire, and listen in new ways. Neuroplasticity is not magic. It's practice embedded in biology. It's patience made physical. So tonight, as you rest, notice how your senses still surround you. Not all at once, not at full volume, but in a quiet symphony. The brush of air on your skin, the murmur of distant sounds, the dim light behind your eyes. And even if one sense has changed for you now or in the past, know this: your brain is not broken. It is flexible. It is still composing, and it will keep playing your life's song with whatever instruments it has, softly, steadily, with beauty. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the colour red. What do you see? Maybe it's a cherry, a fire truck, a soft scarf, the glow behind your eyelids when the sun is out. Now imagine someone else doing the same thing. Will their red match yours? The truth is, you'll never know. Because even if our senses are built from similar parts, rods and cones, eardrums and skin receptors, what we experience through them is filtered through 1,000 quiet layers. Memory, emotion, context, culture, mood. Your perception is not a window, it's a lens. And no two lenses are quite the same. Scientists have known for some time that people differ not only in what they notice, but in how they interpret it. Some are more sensitive to light. Some hear high-pitched sounds others can't. Some taste bitterness more strongly or feel textures more deeply. These aren't quirks, they're variations in the sensory palette we all draw from. And then there are deeper differences. Some of us experience the world with synesthesia, a blending of senses that turns numbers into colours, music into taste, or days of the week into spatial positions. For these individuals, perception is not bound by standard rules. It overflows, merges, crosses lines, not metaphorically, but neurologically. Others live with sensory processing disorder, where ordinary stimuli, like a shirt tag, a buzzing light or background noise, can feel overwhelming or painful. This isn't about fussiness or drama. It's about how the brain modulates input, how it filters or fails to filter the flood of sensation. People on the autism spectrum often describe similar experiences. A world that feels too loud, too bright, too fast, or sometimes not loud or bright enough. Sensory experiences may be intense or muted, and the rules can change from day to day. A gentle touch might soothe one moment and startle the next. And then there's trauma. Long after a difficult event has passed, the body still remembers. Certain sounds, smells, or sights can trigger discomfort, not because they're dangerous in themselves, but because the nervous system has linked them to a past moment of fear. The brain becomes vigilant, scanning not just for meaning, but for memory. Even your mood reshapes perception. When you're joyful, the world feels warmer, brighter, more open. When you're anxious or sad, colours may dull, sounds may irritate, food may taste flat. It's not just emotion affecting thought, it's emotional rewiring sensory interpretation. And culture too teaches you what to notice. In some societies, certain smells are considered comforting. In others, those same smells might be alarming. In one language, there may be a dozen words for a shade of blue. In another, there may be none. This doesn't just change language, it changes how people see. Perception is not neutral. It's learned, practiced, shaped by what you've paid attention to and what you've ignored. It's sculpted by the stories you've been told and the ones you've told yourself. And yet it's easy to forget this, to assume that others see the world the way you do, that your volume is the volume, that your preferences are natural, that your too bright or too loud is universal. But it isn't. And once you know that, you can begin to look at others with softer eyes. When someone recoils from a sound you barely notice, it's not exaggeration, it's sensation shaped differently. When a child melts down in a busy store, it may not be behaviour, it may be sensory flooding. When a friend wears sunglasses indoors, chews a certain texture of food, or flinches at perfume, they're not being difficult, they're navigating their own perceptual map. We don't all live in the same world, we live, overlapping worlds, each built from shared inputs and personal experience. And that's not a flaw, that's what makes perception so beautifully human. Your body is tuned to your life, your past, your brain's wiring, your emotional rhythms. It's not just a sensor system, it's a mirror of who you are. That's why two people can sit in the same room, hear the same song, and walk away with completely different impressions. One hears longing, another hears joy, one finds comfort, the other restlessness. And neither is wrong, your perception is valid, and so is theirs. And this understanding opens the door to something gentler than correction: empathy. You don't have to feel exactly what someone else feels, but you can honour that what they sense is real. To them, their lens is not broken, it's simply not yours. And when you understand that, even partially, the world becomes a softer place. So tonight, as you lie still, you might think of your body as a lens, polished by time, fogged by memory, coloured by emotion. It's not perfect. It doesn't need to be. It's yours. And as others move through their own moments, hearing more, feeling less, seeing differently, know that they too are carrying a unique version of the world. 1,000 private realities, all unfolding quietly together. Place your hand on your chest. You feel its warmth, the soft press against your ribs, maybe even the gentle rhythm of your heartbeat beneath it. And somewhere behind that contact, beyond the skin, the nerves, the pulse, there's a quiet, persistent awareness. This is me. But where does that feeling come from? How do you know that your hand belongs to you? That the body you move through the world is not just a shape, but your shape? That your thoughts, floating silently behind your eyes, are yours alone? This sense, the feeling of being someone, of inhabiting a body and calling it self, is not as solid as it seems. It's not installed like software. It's constructed moment by moment through a symphony of sensory feedback. Your brain at all times is building a map of your body in space. This is called the body schema, a subconscious representation of your size, position, movement and boundaries. You don't have to think about where your foot is or how far your hand needs to reach. Your brain knows. It tracks. It updates. This map is dynamic, changeable, and it's deeply connected to your sense of self. When you see yourself in a mirror, your brain compares what you see with its internal model. When you move, and your eyes confirm the motion, the loop tightens. Yes, that's me. When your foot touches the floor and the pressure feels right, the body schema nods in agreement. Still me, still here. But what happens when that loop is disrupted? In experiments, researchers have created something called the rubber hand illusion. It's simple. A person's real hand is hidden from view, and a rubber hand is placed in front of them. Both the real and fake hands are stroked at the same time, in the same way. After a while, many participants begin to feel the rubber hand as their own. They flinch when it's threatened. Their brain has temporarily rewritten the map. Why? Because the brain trusts synchronized sensation. What it sees, what it feels, and when it feels it, all must match. And when they do, even a rubber hand can feel like home. This is the same principle behind phantom limbs, when someone loses a limb, but still feels its presence. Pain, movement, even itches can be sensed in a hand or a foot that no longer exists. The brain's map doesn't update right away. It holds on to the limb, even in absence, and sometimes it never fully lets go. Other disruptions are more mysterious. Some people have reported out-of-body experiences, especially during moments of trauma, meditation, or altered consciousness. In these moments, they describe watching themselves from outside, floating, detached, observing the body as if it were someone else. Neuroscience suggests these experiences may stem from disturbances in the temporoparietal junction, an area involved in integrating visual, touch, and balance signals. When the signals don't match, when the body's position, vision, and motion are out of sync, the brain may shift its frame of reference, producing the strange sensation of leaving the self behind. And yet the sense of self usually returns, gently, reliably, because your brain wants to be someone. It wants to know where you begin and end. Even breathing plays a part in this. Recent studies suggest that our sense of bodily ownership and stability can be influenced by respiratory rhythms. Breathing doesn't just supply oxygen, it grounds you. It moves the chest, stretches the muscles, sends waves of feedback that reinforce presence. This might be why so many calming practices begin with breath. And when we feel disconnected, mentally, emotionally, or physically, it's often the body we return to first. A hand on the chest, feet on the floor, the feeling of air filling your lungs. These are more than grounding techniques. They're reminders of selfhood. Because at its core, the sense of self is not purely a thought. It is felt. It is built from sensation, from orientation, from the quiet and constant agreement between your brain's map and your body's signals. It is fragile, it is resilient, it bends, it repairs, and most of the time it runs in the background, unnoticed, until something makes it flicker. So tonight, as you settle in, take one soft breath. Notice the weight of your body, the contact points, the alignment of limbs, the stretch of the blanket across your shoulder. This is you, not just in name or memory, but in presence. You are not a mind floating in space, you are a body living in time. And that body, with its heartbeat, its warmth, its slight shifting in the dark, is not just something you have, it is who you are. As night falls and the world grows quiet, your body begins its subtle shift inward. You may not notice it at first. Maybe your eyelids feel heavier. Maybe sound feels softer, like it's coming through a thick curtain. Maybe your limbs seem just a little harder to move. But what's really happening is this. Your brain is beginning to close the gates. Sensory gating, a quiet, filtering process, begins to unfold as you approach sleep. Bit by bit, the volume of the outside world is turned down, and in that stillness, a different world begins to rise. Sleep is not a single state. It is a cycle, a gentle rhythm your body moves through each night. Scientists usually divide it into 4 main stages, grouped into non-REM and REM sleep. Each phase brings changes in brain waves, muscle tone, body temperature, and yes, sensation. In the earliest stages of sleep, the body is still half aware. A distant sound might stir you, a shift in light might register, but as you drift deeper into non-REM sleep, sensory processing begins to slow. Your brain no longer reacts as quickly to what's happening around you. The door begins to close. By the time you reach slow-wave sleep, also known as deep sleep, most sensory input is almost entirely ignored. The outside world fades to a whisper, and inside the brain begins its quiet work. Tissue repair, memory consolidation, emotional sorting. But the most vivid shift comes during REM sleep, the stage where dreaming lives. During REM, your brain becomes as active as it was while you were awake. If we could see your brain waves, they'd look lively, electric. But here's the curious thing. While your mind lights up, your body becomes almost still. This stillness is caused by rematonia, a natural paralysis of the major muscle groups. It's your body's way of protecting you, from acting out your dreams, from moving when your mind is racing through imagined worlds. And during this stage, sensory input from the real world is almost entirely shut out. Touch, sound, light, they still exist, but they're not prioritized. Your brain turns inward, and in that inward turn, something magical happens. You begin to dream. Dreams are not random, they're not chaos. They are the brain's way of rehearsing, rewriting, and remixing the sensory data of the day. A voice you heard hours ago might return as a whisper in your dream. A colour you barely noticed might tint the sky. The rhythm of your walking, the scent of dinner, the sting of a harsh word, all of it becomes material. Like an artist gathering scraps of paper, your brain begins to collage. Some dreams feel like stories, others are fragments, but nearly all of them are made from sensation. Borrowed, broken apart and rebuilt. And this too is perception. Even while asleep, your brain is not silent. It is crafting. It is simulating. It is asking, what did I feel today? What mattered? What can I let go of? Sometimes these dreams feel startlingly real. You might feel warmth on your hand, wind in your hair, motion in your legs. You might hear voices or music. These are not just memories. They are reconstructions built from the brain's internal theatre of sense. And just as in waking life, your brain is still guessing. In a dream, you can turn a corner and expect what's there. You can reach out for an object and it will appear. Your sleeping mind predicts with the same subtle confidence it uses during the day. But now it's freed from the rules of gravity, logic, and time. Some researchers call dreaming a kind of sensory rehearsal. a way for your brain to simulate experience, to test emotional responses, to rehearse challenges and outcomes in a safe, quiet world. A theatre where nothing can hurt you, yet everything feels real. And yet, not all dreams are calm. Some carry the weight of stress. Some replay fears. Some seem loud or dark or confusing. But even then, the brain is trying to process, to release. To take the tangled threads of waking life and wind them into something more manageable. And when you wake, most of it vanishes, like mist evaporating in the sun, dream fragments slip through your fingers, but their effects linger. A strange emotion, a sense of completion, a softened memory. So, as you begin to rest tonight, remember this. Your senses do not stop. They shift. The world you felt all day begins to quiet, not because it's gone, but because your brain is choosing to pause its attention. The doors gently close and a different kind of listening begins. The body settles, the mind dims the lights. And behind those closed doors, your sensory symphony begins to play a new arrangement. One meant only for you. In your dreams, you can fly. Not with wings, not with machines, just lift. Pure, effortless. You rise above rooftops, drift over hills, float through doorways. There's no need to explain it. No resistance, just motion. What makes this possible isn't physics. It's perception. When your body falls asleep, it doesn't simply vanish from awareness. Instead, your brain builds a version of it inside the dream. A dream body, not always identical, not always visible, but felt. You move, touch, breathe, fall, speak. And most of the time, you believe it. This internal sense of self during sleep is a quiet miracle of the brain's storytelling. Even with your muscles stilled by REM atonia, your brain continues to simulate movement. It uses your internal model, your body schema, to create the illusion of walking, dancing, swimming. Your arms may not move, your legs may not twitch, but inside the dream you feel the motion as if it's real. Some dreams offer clear tactile sensations, the warmth of another person's hand, the texture of leaves brushing your skin, the ache of a fall. Others defy gravity altogether. You may float, shrink, or stretch. Your feet may lose the ground, and yet it still feels right. Because in dreams, the usual rules of sensory input are replaced with synthesized sensation, crafted entirely from memory and imagination. What's astonishing is how convincing it all is. You may feel wind against your face, hear your own voice echoing in a vast space, smell something burning or taste a familiar food. These perceptions are not just echoes, they are full-body simulations created without real-world input. Your brain is the artist, and in sleep it paints not just pictures, but experiences. But sometimes the lines between real and imagined become blurred. You may have felt the sensation of trying to move in a dream, but your body won't respond. You're awake, or almost, aware of your surroundings, and yet you cannot lift your arm or open your eyes. This is sleep paralysis, a curious and sometimes unsettling state where REM atonia lingers into waking. It can last a few seconds or a minute, and in that strange pause, some people experience visual or auditory hallucinations, shadows in the room, whispered sounds. It feels as if the dream world has followed you across the threshold. Sleep paralysis reminds us just how thin the border can be between waking and dreaming, how deeply embedded our perception of the body is in context and sensation. And then there are dreams where you're not quite in your body at all. You might observe yourself from above, or float through scenes without form, more observer than participant. These moments feel dreamlike not just because of content, but because your sense of embodiment shifts, you become less anchored, more idea than individual. This altered selfhood in dreams is tied to changes in internal sensation. Your interoceptive sense, your awareness of things like breath, heartbeat, hunger, continues during sleep, but it too is transformed. You may dream of running and your heart will race, or you may dream of the cold water and your body shivers slightly in response. The dream stirs the body, and the body in turn can shape the dream. This feedback loop continues throughout the night. In lighter stages of sleep, an external sound, a dog barking, a passing car, can be woven into the dream's fabric. You hear the sound in the dream, not outside of it. The world doesn't intrude, it blends. And sometimes dreams serve emotional needs more than sensory ones. You may reach for someone who's gone, hear a voice you haven't heard in years, walk through a childhood home. These experiences, vivid and sensory rich, are not about accuracy. They are about meaning. The sensory details are stitched from memory, longing, grief, comfort. Your dreaming body isn't bound by what is true. It is shaped by what matters. And this includes dreams that reflect the body directly. Some people with physical disabilities report dreaming of walking, running, or climbing, experiences that feel natural in sleep, even if not possible in waking life. This suggests that the internal body model remains intact, independent of current ability. The self in dreams remains whole. And for those recovering from injury, the dream body may slowly shift, adjusting to new sensations, exploring old ones, gently rehearsing what healing might feel like. Dreams are not static images. They are lived, felt stories, crafted in the quiet theatre of sleep, where your body becomes narrative. So tonight, as your limbs grow still and your mind drifts, know that you are not leaving your senses behind. You are carrying them inward. Let the dreaming body rise, float, stumble, run. Let it feel wind, water, warmth. Let it reach out, not because it must, but because it can. And let yourself drift into that soft weightlessness, where the rules relax, the lights dim, and sensation becomes story. There's a moment, sometime in the night, when your body is still, your breath is slow, and your mind is no longer wandering. You're deep within sleep's quiet core. And though the world has faded from awareness, no lights, no voices, no footsteps, your brain is not idle. It is sifting, sorting, integrating. While your senses rest, your brain begins its most secret work. The weaving of experience into memory, the soft untangling of thought, the quiet folding of feelings into the drawers where they belong. It is in many ways the brain's nighttime housekeeping. Each day your mind collects an astonishing volume of information. Images, sounds, touches, words, worries, joys. Some of it is important, much of it is not. And without the space to process it all, your internal world would become cluttered, tangled, heavy. Sleep is the brain's way of saying, let me take care of that. During non-REM sleep, particularly the deepest phases, the hippocampus, your brain's memory librarian, replays and redistributes recent experiences. Important details are moved to long-term storage. Repetitive or irrelevant fragments are gently discarded. This is called memory consolidation, and it's one reason why a good night's sleep improves learning far more than late-night cramming. But memory isn't the only thing being sorted. Emotions, too, are softly examined. The amygdala, which processes fear and emotional salience, is highly active during REM sleep. Researchers believe this helps you revisit intense emotions in a safe fictional space, through dreams, and diffuse them, not erase them, but deepen your understanding of them, reducing their sting. In this way, sleep becomes emotional housekeeping as well. Have you ever gone to bed overwhelmed, only to wake up with a little more clarity, a little less tension? That's not magic. That's your brain, quietly working through the knots, unbraiding the threads that felt too tight to manage while awake. And it does this without your permission, without effort. As you dream, your brain explores scenarios, replays conversations, re-experiences sensations, often in strange symbolic ways. These dream fragments don't always make logical sense, but they often make emotional sense. A chase becomes a worry, a flight becomes freedom, a reunion becomes healing. This kind of processing is rarely linear. It's more like folding laundry in the dark. You may not see each shirt, you may not label each thought, but by morning things feel a little more sorted, a little more in place, a little more ready for the day ahead. Some scientists compare this to data compression. The brain reduces complex experiences into more manageable emotional and cognitive patterns. Others describe it as reconsolidation, where memories are not just saved but updated in the light of new information. Either way, the result is the same. You wake not only rested but rewoven. This process is so vital that chronic sleep deprivation can lead to emotional instability, poor memory, and even hallucinations. Without the nightly act of sensory and emotional integration, perception frays, thoughts race, reactions intensify. It's not just about being tired, it's about being unfiltered, unprocessed, and over time that becomes noise. But with rest, the signal returns. So tonight, as you lie still, know that your day is not vanishing. It is being softly examined, held to the light, folded neatly, laid gently aside. Your brain is sweeping the corners, fluffing the pillows of thought, turning confusion into quiet stacks. You may not remember your dreams. You may not know what was kept and what was let go, but you will feel it. In the morning calm, in the unknotted breath, in the way the world looks just a bit more organised, a bit more possible, because while you slept, your mind was not escaping life, it was tending to it. There's a moment just before waking when the world begins to stir. You don't quite feel it yet, not in full, but something shifts. A faint awareness returns, a softness in the light behind your eyelids, a subtle change in temperature, a whisper of sound at the edge of your dream. Your senses are rebooting. Waking is not a switch you flip. It's a slow, rippling emergence, a gentle gathering of selfhood from the edges inward. And at the centre of that reawakening is the return of perception. The process begins before you even open your eyes. Your circadian rhythm, a cycle shaped by light, hormones and internal clocks, begins to lift the veil of sleep. The hormone cortisol rises slightly, preparing your body for alertness. Melatonin declines. Your core temperature slowly rises. The brain shifts out of REM sleep and into lighter stages, and as that happens, your senses begin to flicker back to life. Light first. Even through closed eyes, the presence of morning light is detected. Photoreceptors in your retina, particularly a group called intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells, begin signaling to your brain, it's time. This light doesn't just help you see, it helps you wake. Then comes sound. At first, it may be muffled, distant, like listening through a wall, but the brain begins to pay attention. The trill of birds, the hum of a distant car, the groan of plumbing, the sound of a kettle starting to boil. These are not noise, they are your mind's first cues that the world is turning again. Touch returns next, the softness of sheets, the stretch of a limb, the slightly cool air on your skin. These are small sensations, but they anchor you. You begin to remember the shape of your body, its boundaries, its position. The map inside your mind updates with fresh data. Smell may be the quietest, but also one of the most grounding. The scent of coffee drifting in from the kitchen, or toast, or even just the smell of morning air, still faintly dusty or touched with moisture. These cues often go unnoticed, but they help orient you to place and time. And then, if you're lucky, taste perhaps a sip of something warm, something gentle, tea, milk, something that says, you're here, you've returned. All of these small re-entries create a graceful reassembly of the self, not just biologically, but emotionally. Waking up doesn't only mean sensing again, it means feeling like you again, a mind back in its body, a story resuming from a bookmark tucked gently in sleep. Some mornings this feels automatic, easy, other mornings it takes time. The senses return slowly. The light feels harsh. The sounds feel sharp. The body is reluctant. That's okay. The act of waking is not meant to be perfect. It is meant to be felt. In fact, one of the quiet wonders of perception is how it returns to you differently each day. The way the sun strikes the same wall but looks softer. The way your feet find the floor slightly more tender than yesterday. The way the first sip tastes new again, though it's the same drink. It's in these small repetitions that life finds its rhythm. And if you build gentle rituals around waking, you give your senses something to lean on. Maybe it's the routine of opening a curtain slowly, letting light flood in. Maybe it's the feel of slippers, the sound of water running, the scent of something cooking. These aren't chores. They're bridges from sleep to waking, from dream to day. And in them your senses remember how to belong. So much of perception is made up not of novelty, but of familiarity returned to. The feel of your favourite mug, the softness of a well-worn shirt, the scent of soap, the sound of a voice that's part of your daily life. These things don't demand attention, they offer reassurance. And that's what waking is too. A reassurance that the world is still here, that your senses are still working, that you still have a body to move through it, a mind to meet it and a day to inhabit it, however slowly. So tomorrow, or whenever you next rise, try to notice just one thing, the way your foot meets the floor, the light on the windowsill, the sound of the room before anyone speaks. Not to analyse, not to judge, just to greet it. Because every morning you are not simply waking up, you are re-entering perception, returning gently to yourself. As we come to the end of this quiet journey, let's take a soft breath together. No rush, no effort. Just one slow inhale and an even slower release. And with that, let's gently look back. You began this journey with open eyes, open ears, open skin, surrounded by a world of texture, light, temperature and sound. A world you're always sensing, often without even knowing it. You explored vision, the way light enters your eyes, but the image is built not there, but in your brain. Not just rods and cones, but expectation and context too. Seeing the world not as it is, but as your brain gently paints it for you. You moved into hearing, the dance of vibrations and frequencies, the soft encoding of music, language, footsteps, laughter. Not just in your ears, but in the spaces between sound, silences that the brain holds with care. You remembered how smell and taste, often taken for granted, form the emotional doorway to memory. The way a whiff of bread or a trace of citrus can transport you, suddenly and vividly, to another time, another feeling. Not just scent and flavour, but recognition. You touched the surface of the world, literally, and explored the vast intelligence of your skin, the way it interprets pressure, pain, warmth, safety. How it stretches the borders of the self and draws them back in. You travelled deeper to the hidden senses. You found balance in your inner ears, awareness in your limbs, presence in your breath. You learnt that you can feel not just outside, but within. Your hunger, your heartbeat, your temperature, they whisper to you constantly, guiding, reminding. You discovered time, not the ticking kind, but the kind that flows, that stretches in boredom, folds in joy, that slips away in sleep and reappears with a yawn. Your brain doesn't count time, it experiences it. And then you stepped behind the curtain. You saw how your brain isn't simply collecting sensations, it's conducting them, merging, blending, predicting, creating your reality not from raw input, but from meaning, from memory, from emotion. You saw what happens when one sense goes quiet, how the others rise in gentle compensation, how the brain shifts, rearranges, softens into a new harmony. You learned that your perception is not universal, it is personal, and that's a beautiful thing. It means that your experience, your lens, is valid, and so someone else's. That knowing opens a door to compassion, and perhaps to kindness. And above all, you discovered that you are not a brain in a jar, or a passenger in a machine. You're a body, a sensing, breathing, shifting body, and that body, however imperfect, however tired, is the home of your selfhood. It's how you navigate the world, how you feel sunlight, how you know love, how you recognize comfort. And then, as the night arrived, you let those senses slow. You entered sleep and your brain took over. It filtered, rewrote, composed dreams from scraps of memory. And echo. It simulated warmth, motion, sound, all without your limbs moving at all. Your senses were not gone. They'd simply turned inward. They sorted what needed sorting. They discarded what needed to be forgotten. They soothed without needing applause. And now, whether your eyes are fluttering shut again or already closed, know this. Your body has done so much more than carry you today. It has interpreted the world for you. It has filtered a storm of input into something livable, something feelable. It has translated light into emotion, motion into memory, sound into meaning. And maybe now is a good time to thank it, not in grand speeches or declarations, but with a breath, a soft blanket, a sip of water, a whispered kindness in the mind. Thank you, skin, for protecting me. Thank you, ears, for catching my name when someone spoke it. Thank you, lungs, for moving without me asking. Thank you, brain, for knowing when to hold on and when to let go. You are a symphony of systems, a dance of neurons and tissues and signals and space. You are sensation made sentient. And this whole quiet orchestra, this living harmony, has played for you all day, every day, without asking for recognition. So now, as the lights dim, offer them rest. Let the senses soften. Let the conductor set down the baton, and feel the music that remains, still playing even in silence. At last, you are here, not rushing, not reaching, just here, with all the noise faded, all the signals softened, all the sensations settled into something still. Your senses, those faithful messengers of the world, have slowly, gently begun to quiet. But that quietness isn't absence. It is trust. Letting go of input is not shutting down. It's allowing yourself to be carried, not by thought or effort, but by the slow rhythm your body has always known how to keep. Sleep, when it arrives, is not a blankness. It is not surrender in defeat. It is a pause in the ongoing song of being, an interlude, a resting measure in the music of perception. Your brain, ever vigilant, still listens beneath the silence. It still hums, it still breathes. The heartbeat continues, the breath rises and falls. The skin still warm, still aware, still you, even when you are unaware. And that's the miracle, really. You don't have to try, you don't have to monitor each sense, check each signal, evaluate each sound. You were never meant to. The systems are built to support you even when you're no longer watching. Even now, with your eyes closed, your body knows what it's doing. Even now, the breath knows its rhythm. Even now, the world exists. Filtered, slowed, but still there. Soft. There is no need to grasp it. There is no need to process it all. Perception is not a burden, it is a shroom. And you're allowed to float. You may have spent the day tuning the world like an instrument, adjusting to sound, taste, pressure, light. You may have navigated it with grace or stumbled through it, weary and overstimulated. Either way, you made it here, to this quiet, to this closing, and here nothing more is required of you. No more checking in, no more naming, no more decoding. Your senses have served you, and now, like trusted musicians, they set down their instruments, trusting the silence to hold the next note. Sleep is not failure of attention, it is completion of attention. It is the part of the concert where the music becomes so soft, so full, so perfect that it simply dissolves into stillness. And still, the song goes on. Somewhere within you, the pulse still drums, the lungs still sway, the temperature still shifts gently as your body settles deeper. But your mind is beginning to drift, to fade, to loosen its hold on form and definition. This is the moment where sensation and self begin to blur, and it is safe to let that happen. You're allowed to become less distinct, less solid, more like a breath, a current, a ripple on a still lake. You're allowed to become sensation without thought, presence without shape, awareness without expectation. You've done enough for today. You've listened. You've felt. You've marvelled at what it means to simply be a sensing creature. Now, let the lights dim. Let the stage go dark. Let the orchestra dissolve into that beautiful hum that comes after the final note. Because the symphony never truly ends. Even in sleep, the body continues. Even in stillness, perception shifts and renews. You're not falling into silence. You're floating through it, held by it. You're not turning off, you are turning inward. And in that inward place where sight is memory, where sound is heartbeat, where warmth is simply there, you're whole, you're safe, you're quiet. So sleep now if you wish, or don't. Drift, if that feels better. Linger on the edge. But wherever your mind wanders next, go gently. Go slowly. There is no rush. The world will still be here when you return, and your senses, faithful, patient, will be ready to greet you again.